thank you all for coming. I'm going to be enjoying this, and also we'll have a co-host. Toastmaster Cicely Harper will be doing part of this, and you will see her later on. My first question, and I have two screens, so when I look over here, I'm going to be looking at any responses. How comfortable are you in pathways? If you are pretty comfortable, let's see a raise of hands. Okay, okay, we got, oh, Carlos, great, new member, he's jumping right on it. How about, oh, how about, okay, we've got one. Okay, we've got a well-versed, we've got a couple of so-sos. How about this is still pretty new and or quite confusing? Okay, all right, super. Well, we hope some of this will be demystified this evening. First of all, it will help when I get my slides. There we are. So we've talked about that. It seems like a lot of you are relatively new. How many of you have actually enrolled and started in a pass? Okay. All right, I see a few more hands popping up. All right. Now here's some pathways lingo. And some of this you already may be familiar with, but for those who aren't, we'll just go ahead and knock it out. Assessment, that is where you go in and you answer questions to decide on what path you want. What path meets your needs, your interests, and your goals. And we're going to be showing you how to do that in a little bit. Base camp. I have some friends who are realtors, and over the last few years, they've talked about base camp this and base camp that. I'm an independent provider. I had no idea what in the heck they were talking about. Now that I'm involved in it with pathways, I understand. It's the hub of where things are happening. And that's what lets you into all things pathways. The base camp manager, that's your VP education, your president, and your secretary, and they have extra permissions to be able to approve levels, track your progress, enter things in Club Central. We are not going to be talking about base camp manager responsibilities today, but out of curiosity, how many of you, even if you have no idea what you're doing, how many of you are base camp managers? So you are either a president, a secretary, or a VP education. 3 of you. Okay, great. I think that's definitely a worthy training in and of itself. Paths. These are the learning paths. These are the focus for which each person chooses, and that's their area of interest or something that is challenging for them. And each of the paths have a different purpose. And I have a great chart, a matrix that I found from a training I went to the other day that I will share. Levels. Each path has 5 levels, and we begin with level 1, which is the basic introductory, and we go on to level 5, which is more challenging, more complex, and more involved. And we're going to look at those again in a little bit. Projects. Speeches are projects, but not all projects are just speeches. Who can explain that? Some of you perhaps, well, it doesn't have to be a seasoned pathways person. What do I mean by that? You can unmute yourself and you can, all right, I'm gonna have to call on somebody then. Mr. John Williams, excuse me, Toastmaster John Williams. I know I've seen you at lots of trainings. What do we mean when it's speeches are projects, but not all projects are just speeches?
Projects have multiple speeches sometimes, so that, and one of the projects has an evaluation as part of the project. So the 2 speeches and an evaluation. So there are a variety of ways that a project can present itself. Most of them do have a speech though.
Yes, thank you very much. That is exactly correct. I'm going to show you how to get to the navigator and the tutorials, but there is information in pathways to help. As with many, many things, some people are going to find it helpful, some people are not. But this you access through Basecamp, and it's a Toastmasters navigator. It is not just pathways. So it has basic information about Toastmasters, your club, your meeting, and then these relate to pathways, and it's a lot of Q&A. And hopefully your questions are going to be answered if you look there. We all know not all frequently answered questions have the information that we are actually looking for, but that is a place to start. And again, I'll show you how to get there. There's also tutorials, and this is also accessible through Basecamp. There's videos, there's articles, there's demos. And again, some are going to be helpful to you and some are not. You're going to feel that now they're not worth their time. Now, I love this slide. How many footprints are there? I'm going to have to call on somebody.
There's 11.
Thank you, Toastmaster Harper. Why are there 11 footprints?
To represent the 11 paths.
Thank you, Toastmaster Harper. Exactly. And we'll be talking about the paths, at least introducing the names to you in a little bit. And if you do your reading or if you search on Google, it will tell you there's around 65 projects, give or take, and a whole slew of competencies. Actually, there's 300 competencies, different skills and abilities that you are going to be able to learn and ideally master through your Pathways journey. I feel like I need to apologize for the color of this slide. This is the first time I have done a word cloud, and I didn't like any of the color combinations. This was the best I could master. This is for the dynamic leadership path. And so, of course, leadership is big and bold. But it also talks about style. It's going to be leadership style, communication styles, recognizing, identifying different aspects of your leadership and how you interact with others. I only did it for this path, but you could do it for any path. A lot of the leadership paths probably will look the same because leadership is obviously predominant there. Transforming and learning. This is not a pass-fail situation. It's interesting because I read often on the Pathways discussion forum, people are posing questions, either it's a VPE or a Basecamp manager that's asking perhaps about guidance or protocol, or it may be a member that says, hey, my VPE said this and I'm not sure I agree with it. And maybe this was in the earlier times of Pathways, but oftentimes there'd be a question from a VPE or a member that said, the member did the speech, but he or she missed the objectives, didn't make them. I want to not give him credit. I want to have him do it again. Is that okay? Or members will say, I did this, but the VPE won't approve it because she said I didn't meet my objectives. Most of the answers are, we're not the judge and the jury. They did the project. Maybe they did the best they could. Maybe they misunderstood. I recently did a project that I had been putting off for 2 years, the Understanding Emotional Intelligence project, because I did not want to journal for 2 weeks. I finally bit the bullet and did it. I've read the project numerous times. I did my speech. Right before I did my speech, I looked at again at my objectives. I totally missed the mark. I basically gave a speech on what I did in the diary. I didn't do a speech on emotions. And I put that in my introduction. I realized I missed the mark. My evaluator commented that I did not meet the objectives, but she didn't not approve it. And I don't know, I've not been any clubs that have been in that situation. But that is always, it could come up, but it's not pass fail. It's self-paced. It's also, I knew a member that did a speech based on what the title was. I'm not sure the person actually read the project because even though it represented the title, it did not really represent the product at all. And also with transforming and learning, we have a member, I don't think she is here, and she's never shy about saying her age, so I will say it. She is now 90. 4 years ago, she's been a long time Toastmaster. She loves learning. She's extremely active. She was an early Pathways ambassador and guide. And she thought, what is all this stuff about blogging? I want to learn how to blog. At 86, she wasn't going to do it on a regular basis, but she wanted to know it, learn it, and have that in her tool belt. She said several of her club members they were talking about, you could use this platform, you could use this platform. She goes, what do the real bloggers use? That's what she wanted to use. And some of her more experienced members said, why don't you do this? You can still get credit, but it's not as complicated. Nope. She did the real thing. She did it. She learned. She gave a speech on it, learned the technology. And it was learning for learning's sake, which is great, no matter what age you are, but especially as we get older. This is a part of a website. I went to a training the other day from a couple in Maryland, and I will share the link with you at the end or through email. But this is from DTM George Mastall. He's a Chief Pathways Guide, District 57. He has loads of stuff. But I really like this because oftentimes we see level 1, these are the speeches, these are the skills, level 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is good information. But I think this is really helpful for whether it's a new member or even a seasoned member that's trying to figure out what in the heck path do I want to do next. And this is done, as you can see, really by how much speech and presentation versus how much leadership. I looked at this and smiled because my first path I chose was presentation mastery, full-on speech. The next one I chose was motivational strategies, really because they didn't yet have engaging humor. So I have these two. I have this, which I agree is light in leadership. And then I went for a fourth path, and it's team collaboration. And when I looked at this chart and I saw moderate leadership, I started to panic. But I already looked at the projects. It's going to be okay. But it's because some people want to delve right in. They want to hit it hard. But others, they may not be prepared for some of the projects in these higher levels. And you hate to go through all of that and then not want to complete the end. People do. You certainly don't have to complete a whole path. You can do levels 1, 2, 3, buy a new path, level 1, 2, 3. And again, that helps you. It doesn't help the club as far as getting points to their distinguished club program. But that's an individual versus the club cohesiveness. And it's your choice how you do things. And one other matrix that I think is fantastic, and let me shift over here. Do you see the matrix with all the badges? I can't see you, so somebody's going to have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you, Toastmaster Harper. I love this. It's very detailed. This actually may be way too visually overstimulating for some people, but I like it because it's very organized. This has all of your 11 paths. These are the badges. It has the path names. It has all of your 5 levels. And we'll go into detail a little bit more when we look at choosing a path, but this has pretty much any information you want to know. And this also may be helpful for new members, although again, it also may be way too much for them to look at because somebody could be, oh, whoa, no, I can't, just show me one thing. One of the workshops I went to was quite interesting. It was one over in the Philippines that I attended virtually. And a club was saying they decided as a club or as a club officers that all new members, it is mandatory that they start with presentation mastery. That is their free path. And people might go, well, that's not fair. They can choose whatever path they want, which is true. But that's what they have set for their club culture. And they decided because people normally go to Toastmasters to improve their speaking. Granted, their leadership skills is an added bonus. And even if you want to come to improve your leadership, probably in that mix is I want to improve my public speaking. And so that's why they decided that is everybody's first pass. Now you get to see me for a little bit. Now we've got the 5 levels. The first level is basic speech writing, speech organization. And oftentimes we hear when we have a new member trying to get them involved, get them engaged, get them started with pathways. Oh, your first speech is an icebreaker. It's okay. It's no big deal. It's only 4 to 6 minutes and you talk about yourself. Now, whether the person really believes that or it's a way to encourage the member to do this icebreaker without having them be fearful and overwhelmed of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And it's true. It is 4 to 6 minutes. It is talking about some aspect of your life, but it's also a plan. You're learning how to write a speech. You're learning how to do organizational aspects of your speech. You're learning how to get up there and present yourself to the public. So perhaps I'd encourage you to not scare them off by saying, oh, you're going to learn this and this, because maybe they'll go, oh gosh, no, that makes me nervous. I can't do it. Maybe do a little bit of mix, encouraging them that it's not as overwhelming as some of your other projects later on. I don't know if that would be encouraging or not, but it is more than just getting up there and speaking. It's really the foundation of learning how to write your speech. And now, of course, with the new level 1, it's also talking about the fundamentals, vocal variety, body language. In level 2, you're learning about different styles, communication style, leadership style. Level 3 is where it gets to be more tailored to the individual. You are getting to have some electives now. You're increasing your knowledge base. Level 4, you're building more skills. You are doing some more involved projects. Again, you have electives. And level 5 is you're demonstrating your expertise. These typically are more involved projects. They are maybe longer, they have a longer commitment, and it's more time consuming, but again, you're getting, in a sense, you're getting more bang for your buck. You can do more than one path at a time. You can, if you were mandated to do presentation mastery, you could still do that and buy your own path. Especially when you get up to levels 4 and 5, because there's often more planning. Maybe you're not going to be doing speeches as quickly because you're more involved in developing a plan or setting up a panel discussion. And so sometimes that's an optimal time to go ahead and get another path to start, because that way you can still do your speeches because you'll be doing your icebreaker again and you'll be doing your vocal variety, but you'll be able to speak on a regular basis. And I think another key point, especially as you start doing more paths, yes, level 1 is all the same projects. If you do 5 paths, you're doing 5 icebreakers. I just did my 5th icebreaker, and I joked that I'm having to dig deep to find things that are interesting about myself to say in my speech. But now I looked at my path, team collaboration, and my icebreaker was about why I chose that and what experiences have I had within that regard. To me, 5 icebreakers sounds like a lot, but longtime Toastmasters, 15, 16, maybe even more, because whether it's through Pathways or the older program, that was always the beginning part of your path. Oh. Are there any questions? I have not been checking the chat. So Toastmaster Wallace, are there any questions that have been asked to address, or?
There was only one question. I'm sorry, let me put my video on as well. I had someone who asked if they're in level above level 2 and they're working on a project that has to do with their work. Can they skip into another can they skip into another level as long as they're in there? So let's just say they're level 2 and they have a project that's something that coordinates with what they're working on in level 4. Can they skip to that level?
They can. Toastmaster Harper, would you like to address that? I see you smiling. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. And this is a little bit of the icing before the cake here. And I talk about this in a little bit of my presentation, but the quick answer to that is yes, you are able to skip around on your levels. They are planned out levels 1 through 5 to, make it simple and easy on you, but you are not committed to go. It is preferable if you go at least level 1 and level 2, since those are the fundamental levels. But once you start to go into level 3 and 4, when you have electives, if you want to skip around because you are doing something in real life that relates to Toastmasters, you are able to jump between those levels.
Thank you, Toastmaster Harper.
You're welcome.
We can open it up for questions if there are any now that were not placed in the chat, just for a couple of minutes before we move on. I only have a minimized screen, so I'm not going to see if all the hands go up. Yes, Toastmaster Williams.
I have a comment about something earlier on where you were talking about people finishing a project and not actually reading the project as part of the speech. Because this is self-paced, and you get out of this what you put into it. So I like to say, no pain, no gain. If you really want to be better at something, you need to read the project and do the project all the way through.
Thank you. That is true.
But you don't have to.
No, you don't have to, because nobody's checking up on you. This is really the honor system. And it's, as John said, Toastmaster Williams said, that you do get out of it what you put into it. Some people like to just go through things. They like to have that accomplishment. That's just their personality. Some like to be very thorough. And if this is what you're supposed to do in order to improve, then this is what I want to do, because it's got some good information in there. Thank you. Toastmaster Humphrey. Did you meet?
Yes. It may be a dumb question, but I'm just trying to get an answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
You do, or when you join, you may do an assessment and you may get assigned, this is the pathway you should take. Is it always that case, or say after this training, I decide that I might want to go a different pathway? Does everyone start off on that same initial first pathway?
No, to my knowledge, none of the clubs, well, certainly that I'm involved in, I don't know very many clubs that would say you have to do presentation mastery to begin with. And in fact, that's perfect timing, because that is what we're going to talk about right now. Are there any other questions before we do this? And as we go along with questions, because I'm not really paying attention to the time, Toastmaster Wallace or Toastmaster Hall may put an end to the questions if we need to move on, but then again, we will address them later on. Now, I have to say, this is my favorite slide that I made. No matter how I adapt it, it's always going to be my favorite slide, because it was a lot of fun to look and find this information. That's really just an aside, but it makes me laugh every time I see it. We're going to talk about how to access pathways, and then we're going to look at the assessment piece. There are different ways to access pathways, at least 3, maybe 4. I'm just going to show you the way that's actually the quickest. It's a hover and a click. You hover. This is, once you've logged in, this screen is going to come up. Oh my goodness. You get to see that again. Once you log into Pathway, once you log into the Toastmaster website, the TI International, you're going to be at this screen. This is the welcome page. In order to do the simplest login, you hover over your name and this will pop up. All you do then is you click on profile. This takes you to your profile page. And again, there's different ways you can get to things, but this has everything in one place. It has how to choose a path, which is what we're going to do in a minute. One way to go to Basecamp. And this is the navigator that I talked about at the very beginning, the Toastmasters Navigator. Lastly, anytime you want to get back to your profile page, click on the globe. I have to say, when I first started with Toastmasters, I was looking and checking out this TI website. I would get so lost. I did not know how I got where I got. I didn't know how to get out of it or where to go. And I just said, okay, I'm going to click on the globe and start from scratch. I was very happy to find that piece of information. Now we are going to go live. And one moment, I need to make sure I've got the right screen where I want it. It all works lovely in practice, but not always as smoothly in reality. Here we go. I'm just happy it hasn't timed out on me and I have to log in again. Here is the welcome page. Can everybody see that? I see some yeses. Super. And like I said, you hover and click on profile. I spoke too soon. Oh my gracious goodness. I do have all of, there we go. Now we are in our profile page, and we're going to talk about accessing and choosing a path. We're going to go to choose a path. Obviously, you choose your language. I'm going to do English just for fun. Right now, the only format that's available is online. That's because they're still not having the Toastmasters store open, so you cannot purchase a print path. Once the store becomes open again, you will have that ability. And some people need that because they just don't have access to a computer, or for whatever reason, they're not using a computer. The paths, there's not all the electives, there's not all of the paths, there's not all of the languages. You don't have access to all of the information at once. They mail you a certain number of levels, and when those are completed, they mail you the rest. But if that's the only way you can access the information, then that's fine. So now, since the bulk of people use the online version, you select digital. And here you have a couple of options. You can look at all of the paths and decide what do you want to do from there. I only have 7 because I've already got 4 paths that I'm working on. You can then get a little more description, and then you can also view all of the projects. And here's 3, 4, and 5 is where you start to get your electives. Are you able to see the matrix again?
Yes.
Thank you. And again, whether you do looking at all of the paths at the same time, or if you go to the assessment, which we're going to do as soon as we look at this, and you're just really debating. Maybe you want to really work on your speaking. You don't really want to do anything heavy duty, long term. You're not into leadership right now. And you go through here, let's see. I think, what path sounds interesting? I think that persuasive influence. I'm a salesperson. I really need to work on persuasive influence. So I come down here and I say, high performance leadership project. Oh, what's that? It's more involved. You need a guidance committee. It's typically more long-term, and it has greater scope. For some people, that's what they want to do. That's what they need. Other people, like me, I do not want to do that. I would not choose persuasive influence path because all of these items in red, my gosh, all of these items in yellow are required. And as I said, all of these have active links. When you click on a project, you get the basic description. And Toastmaster Harbor is going into much more detail when we get to the Basecamp and education transcripts on what all is involved and what is all included in that information. But I was just so delighted when I saw this. And again, I find it visually appealing because it's so organized. Now we're going to go back and we are going to go take our assessment. And I always forget to hit continue for some reason. Again, we're going to do it in English. You first start out by choosing 3 topics. What happens is you go through a series of questions, and at the end, it recommends 3 paths for you. You do not have to choose one, but those are the things that saying you might want to consider these based on your interests. Let's have 3 people toss out what are they interested in. Let's see, Toastmaster Kyle's. Which one of these, and it doesn't have to be what you're really interested in. Why don't you go ahead and give a shout out to which one of these we should click?
Time management.
All right. Toastmaster Campbell, what's the next one we should click? Okay, Toastmaster Campbell still on mute. Somebody else, give a shout out. We need 2 more areas.
Interpersonal communication.
Okay, and one more.
Public speaking.
Public speaking. Sorry, Toastmaster Campbell, I think you'll have a chance in a minute. Now we're going to start going through the questions. I think there's 15 or so questions, and what they do is narrow it down for you. Toastmaster Campbell, which of the following topics is most related to the personal and professional goals that brought you to Toastmasters? Again, you can make it up. It doesn't matter.
I would say public speaking.
Okay, great. Learning about what, let's have another shout out, will help you significantly in your personal and professional life.
Time management.
Time management. So, and then we'll get the next one we'll get, if they ask, we'll do an interpersonal communication. And you know what? I'm just going to mark various ones here because I'm not buying another path, and this is just to show you. So it's just asking, do you initiate conversations? Are you comfortable in group conversations? I'm able to adapt my conversational style. I'm going through these quickly because it depends on what areas of interest you mark. It's going to depend on your questions. Okay, let's see. I'm just randomly, so I have no idea what this is going to look like with the paths it's going to give me. There's quite a few because we're only halfway there. I'm not counting how many questions there are. I think there may be more than 15 though, at this rate. Got through all those questions. What was recommended for me? Innovative planning and leadership development. I personally am not interested in either one of those. I could go ahead and look and get more information. But one thing to know, if you choose a path and you start it and you decide once you look at everything in detail, oh, that path is not for you, you have 30 days to exchange the path. You can't get a refund, even if whether it's redeeming your free path, you can't get a refund if you buy a path. You can only exchange it. And I would say that if you do it on day 31, you're out of luck. Toastmasters is going to give you 30 days. I would probably shoot for day 29. Now, I've heard 2 different things. I've heard it used to be that you couldn't have completed level 1, I believe. If you had, you couldn't exchange it. But lately I was reading that you can exchange it anytime within those 30 days. And that is something that if you're not sure, you could always check with Toastmasters International. Stop. Let's see. Let's see where I. Okay. So we did our profile page. And now we're going to just access pathways, and soon Toastmaster Harper will be sharing a lot more about actually navigating into pathways and figuring out how to do your projects and marking them. But again, this is just the overview. So this is the one way. Again, there's probably 3 or 4 ways. This way is just the simplest. Go from your profile page to access Basecamp. This is absolutely what I felt when I started with pathways. I just was lost. I dedicated time to literally all day for a few days, sit there and figure it out. I was VPE, so I figured I needed to know what I was doing. This is your Basecamp homepage. Here, just like in the Toastmasters website, if you clicked on the globe, it sent you back to your welcome page. In Pathways, if you click on either this or the home page or the home button, it will take you back to Basecamp. Now, I don't understand a lot of this because I keep just wanting to click on this, but you can't. You have to click on home or hover over home and then click on home to get you where you want to be. I imagine there's a rationale and maybe it's setting the framework for something more later on. I don't know. But anyway, you can't just hit the blue bar. You won't go anywhere. Here, if you're in Pathways and you want to go back to the Toastmaster website because they're two different entities, it's going to tell you here, just go back to your profile page. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we're going to show you how to access the tutorial pages that I showed you way at the beginning. The pages that have videos, they have articles. And this is what it's going to look like. You go to your tutorials and resources and here, and this isn't all of them. And it's got information on evaluation. As you get into higher levels, the 360 evaluation, which is much more comprehensive of somebody's leadership. It's got a glossary talking about Basecamp Manager. And again, you're going to find some of these helpful, I hope, and then you're going to find some of them that are not helpful, unfortunately, but that is the way it is. Another way, and this will get you to some videos. Honestly, you probably could get to these through Basecamp, but I just haven't checked enough to find out where they are. When you're on your welcome page, if you click on the hover on the education programs and scroll down, tutorial videos, and that will lead you here. Basecamp homepage, accessing your path, and launching a project. And these two items, Toastmaster Harper will be talking about shortly. Speech evals. If you use free ToastHost for your club website and agendas, once you put in your path and your project, the evaluation form pops up. I don't know about Easy Speak because I don't use it. But you can access every single one of your evaluations through Basecamp. This is your Basecamp homepage. And as Toastmaster Williams said, the reason I have this highlighted is because each of these parts of the project has its own evaluation form. They're very similar. A few years ago, Toastmasters streamlined their evaluation forms. The bulk of them are the same, but there's one or two questions at minimum that pertain particularly to the project you're doing. And I've had it, and I think I've done it myself. I was in a hurry, and I was on the second part of this project, and I just pulled this first one. It's not the end of the world because the bulk of it's the same, but it has questions that pertain to this. And if there's any other projects that are multi-part, they're going to have their own feedback form. Now comes the time for Toastmaster Harper to get more into the nitty-gritty of Basecamp and accessing and moving through your path. Take it away, Toastmaster Harper.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for spending your evening with us. I just want to preface this by saying, as another Toastmaster said before, you get out of Toastmasters what you put in, because I've only been in Toastmasters for a little under a year, and if someone would have asked me to do a Zoom call speaking with a majority of people that I do not know, I would have respectfully declined. But here I am, and I'm glad to be here with you all tonight. So if I do anything less than perfect, please blame it on my head and not my heart. And at least I am on this journey amongst friends who share the same goal as I do. And I will share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I feel like Toastmaster Sherman now. I'm like, I can't see everybody how I normally did. And so just to kind of go back a few steps to make sure that we're on the same page, literally, as Toastmaster Sherman was saying before, you go to Toastmasters International, you put in your username and/or email and password, hit enter, and then it leads you to this page, which is your homepage. And you will hover over profile and it will send you here. And you will have your 3 options up top, but right now we are focused on Basecamp. I am also a VPE, so I have a login as Basecamp Manager button. Please do not worry if you do not have this button. The majority of you are not supposed to have this button. If you are in multiple clubs, you will have the option to change clubs here and have your path reflected for whichever club you see fit. After you have your club selected, you select Go, and it sends you to this page as Toastmaster Sherman was just on, and we are interested in paths and learning. And it will next show you all of the paths that you are currently enrolled in. I am doing my presentation mastery. I just want my 1 level at a time. Toastmaster Sherman here has 4 of these that shows up, whereas I just have 1. So once again, it's going to vary how many paths you have here. And you just want to click on whichever one you want to go and complete your paths for. And here it is basically your overview from your level 1 through 5 path levels. It will show you what path you are currently on at the top. So if you are in more than 1 path and you accidentally select the wrong one, you'll know automatically if you need to back up and go back into the right path. And so you will start out at level 1. Level 1 is typically your foundation for that path. You'll have, as Toastmaster Sherman mentioned, your icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback, and some research involved in that level 1. And then at the end, at the bottom, you will have your certificate of completion. Once you complete all 3 of these, you will receive a check mark for your level 1, and you can proceed to level 2. Now, as someone had asked earlier, you can go out of order depending on how you feel if you're just adventurous like that. But I do recommend that you at least try to do level 1 and 2 after each other, especially if you're new, so that you get a good foundation and a good feeling for how the pathways in the future will be set up. Level 2 are typically your leadership and communication style. So you'll have projects reflecting body language and communication styles, while levels 1 and 2, they're pretty much going to be the same. All the paths are going to be structured pretty much the same. The levels will become more tailored to your specific path in levels 3 and 4, where you enter into the electives that you get to do. So once again, you have your mandatory 3 speeches that you have to do here, and if I can move that out of the way, and your certificate at the end. And level 3 is where you start to get into your elective projects. You will always have 1 mandatory speech that you have to do for level 3 and 4, so that you know what you're doing for that particular level. And then you get to enter your elective projects. Note at the top, it says total items, 13. So you have 13 different electives that you can choose from, but you only have to complete 2 of those electives to receive the check mark to say you completed your electives. And this is the part as well where I encourage you, not necessarily encourage, but say that you can skip around and kind of just see what those electives are between levels 3 and 4, because maybe you are doing something at work or PTO or an outside club. It may connect with something that you're doing on level 4, even though you're currently on level 3. You can toggle in between those. Just make sure you pay attention to that minimum required number so that you get your check mark. You can be adventurous and do all 13 of them, or you can only do your required 2. That's a personal decision and completely up to you. Now, when you come to your electives, you will have launch and activate. When you first start, all of them will say activate. You're going to have to technically activate the project first and then launch it. There is no harm in activating and launching all 13 of your electives. It basically allows you to see what that project is about, if it's something that you really want to do, or if it's something that you want to pass on. So please don't stress if you activate and launch a path and then decide that you don't want to do it. It's not going to be held against you. No harm, no foul. Don't worry about it. But if you do decide that you are interested in, say, delivering social speeches, you have an award ceremony coming up and you're going to have to present in front of your company. So you want to go into this project. I've already looked at it, so mine does not say activate. You will activate it first, then launch it. And then we will go into dun, 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 the meat of, of the project. And I think mine, since I already opened it before, it's before where it was supposed to be, but it'll always open with the introduction for that project and basically give you an overview of what the goal of the project is about. Next is going to tell you about your assignment. Once again, what the overall purpose and job is that you're supposed to accomplish from this project. And as Toastmaster Sherman was talking about before, about going back and realizing that she did not necessarily target the overall objective of the speech, this project checklist is just an overall one-pager that once again lets you know the purpose and the meaning of this project, how long the project is supposed to be, and then just kind of helps you to formulate your speech. Just reminds you to schedule it with your VPE if you maybe have a larger club or you plan out your meetings. If you know that you want to do this one, you might want to get a heads up and go ahead and get put on your schedule for that one. And it reminds you, you will have to present 2 types of speeches for this project. So it lets you know if more than just giving the speech is required. It's asking you to do 2 separate types of speeches, writing your speeches, rehearsing your speeches, and of course, assessing your skills after the fact. So pretty much just a little one-pager to help remind you what to do for the project. One of the most important things is assessing your skills beforehand. It's a pre-test. There's a pre-test and a post-test. Please don't freak out. It's not a pass-fail type thing. It's really for your own benefit and calculation, and basically to know or note your comfort skills and levels before going in and learning the meat of the skills, so that when you do the post-test, you can basically just kind of see and compare where you are, and if you got more of a better understanding afterwards. If you did, great. If you don't, that's okay. Like I said, it's basically just for your comparison. And it took me a little while to notice this, but whenever you have maybe something like this that it's asking you to rate, make sure you click the next button and not the arrow. If you click the arrow, it's going to take you to the next slide versus allowing you to answer the questions. Also, please note at the bottom, it will often give you directions so that you know how to rate or scale the questions. And you will just go, it's typically just about 5 questions that you answer. And like I said, it's no pass fail, just mark how you feel. And it also lets you know the competencies and what you need to do and nail for the speech and what you need to walk away with. And then you basically just get into the meat of your speech, of what they really want you to take away from the speech, the goals that you should get, tips for giving your speech, different kind of things that you should note for that project. Once again, I just want to reiterate to note that you push the next button to see those different notes in there versus the arrow before it's time. And like I said, it's just basically a lot of notes and just tidbits for helping you to prepare for your speech. Sometimes you may have videos. And then once you get towards the end, it'll give you, once again, it's very helpful. It'll give you another basic overview for everything that it told you before in the meat of these slides. It's just a nice little tidy to do there. And you can also download that page so that you don't have to write it down or memorize it. It makes it easy for you. You can just download it and keep it with you. And once you get to the end of it, it's going to ask you again. The next slide will be a post test, and that post test is after you've given your speech. You'll go back and take that post test and just kind of compare to how you felt before you gave your speech. But at the end, it will also give you an evaluation resource. Like Toastmaster Sherman said before, with our free Toast host, we get to, if you plug in your speech, your path, and all of that, it will automatically propagate the evaluation page for your evaluator. But if you wanted to give it to them beforehand, or even if you really just wanted to sneak peek and see what the evaluation form looks like, what they're going to be listening for, please take a look at it. And just so you can familiarize yourself, it's basically like a cheat sheet to let you know what the overall objectives for that speech is and what the evaluator should be looking for. But also, if you know your evaluator beforehand, go ahead and send it over to them. That way they can just have it in 2 places. You can also, once again, print your project. It gives it to you all over again towards the end, so that if you just wanted to download it and just look at it maybe later at work, or if you have some downtime somewhere else, you can download it and just take a look at it again without having to physically log back into your profile. And then once again, just other little notes and tidbits that it gave you earlier in the meat of the project. Now, once you've given your speech, like I said, you come back and you take your post test. Don't worry, it's no pass, no fail. You take it and you basically get to just see how you did before and after. And that is really what marks your completion for that project. If you do not complete the post test, then you won't receive the check mark that you get next to that project, and it will not go towards the minimum required. But if you give your speech, you really put your all into it, you were passionate about it, and you just needed to kind of come home and woosah afterwards, and you forget to take the post test, that's definitely okay. It does not time out. Just when you remember to go back and take that post test, it'll be there for you, no matter if it's a week or 2 weeks. Try to take it as timely as you can, but like I said, it does not time out on you or anything like that. So if you want to, not if you want to, but to get that check mark for completing your levels, you need to make sure that that you complete all of your minimum required electives. You can complete more than the total required, or you just can't complete less than. It will also tell you here your progress bar for that level. And once you complete your progress in your in your projects, it will also increase your overall curriculum percentage as well. So when you complete your 2 electives, and then you will also complete your mandatory speech for level 3. You complete that level, and then you get a check mark here. You can go out of order between 3 and 4, but to do level 5, you can do the speech and the electives, and it will mark you done for your level 5. But to get the overall check mark for your path completion, you have to complete levels 3, 4, and 5 before you're able to do the path completion. So that is kind of our checks and balances there to make sure that you actually did complete everything that you needed to do prior to saying that you completed the overall path. I will also recommend that when you complete your levels, that you just gently nudge your VPE and let them know that you completed that level. They should get an email, but sometimes things get overlooked, things happen. And so to make sure that they also can reflect that in Basecamp and in Club Central, it will need to be noted in 2 locations. And I know that sometimes people don't need personal check marks. As long as they know they did it, they're okay with it. But I'm just going to slip on my BPE hat on here and just please gently nudge you to complete your paths and your project levels and get those check marks. Even if you personally don't get satisfaction from that, as Toastmaster Sherman mentioned before, it does help your club get those distinguished awards and goals. And if the club had overall objectives that they wanted to push for the club, it definitely helps the overall consensus there. You are not required, but I'm just going to gently ask that you make sure that you complete those projects and those tasks. I'm trying to remember if I had anything else there. I know that was a lot that that I just spit out to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. If I have some extra time, whether it be now or at the end, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. But just to reiterate my takeaways, complete your pre and your post tests. Don't freak out about them because they will not determine whether you pass or fail your path or project. Be mindful of your required electives and make sure that you complete those for each level 3 and 4. And then just gently remind your BPE of your completion of your different levels. Toastmaster Sherman, did I forget anything?
Unmute. There's so much in there.
It is.
Let's let Toastmaster Wallace, do you want to facilitate? I don't know if there were any questions in chat. And then I'm going to answer the question. There was a question about speech evaluation access, but we'll let Toastmaster Wallace facilitate any questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat. If anyone has any questions, you can post that now. Just drop it in. I know it's a lot to take in. And as I'm looking through, I had so many questions before, and I've had to just come back in and ask them as I went along. So if you catch a question that you think of as we go on into the rest of the workshop, just drop it in. And as Cecily said, she can catch that at the end. So even if you can't think of a question right now, just drop it into the chat and we'll make sure we get to it by the end of the workshop. And if not by the end of the workshop, definitely it will be on our upcoming podcast, because we want you to succeed and really get a lot from this. I know we all have, and we're excited to share this with you tonight. So
thank you.
If there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Toastmaster Sherman.
Thank you very much. Someone had a question in the chat, and I'm not sure who it was, about uploading speech evals. What speech evals? I'm a speech pathologist, so I talk about speech evals, evaluations, the pathways evaluations, but I'm not sure. I wanted to clarify what the question was. So would you unmute and ask that again?
Yes, what they asked was, once we do our speech evaluations for someone, how is there a way for us to upload this on to Toastmasters or on our free Toast site? Or is this just something we send directly?
You need to send it directly to them. We're going to talk about uploading documents into your own document folder. I thought you could never look at anybody else's, but apparently I think you used to be able to, but I don't think you can upload into anybody else's. If anybody has experience otherwise, please jump in and correct me. Otherwise, you just need to email it to them. And on that, sometimes, especially I think through Zoom, but maybe in person as well, we sometimes tend to get lax, maybe especially if you know the person, and it's a really informal collegiate club. Sometimes I think we don't always send the evaluation form. Maybe we think, well, they don't need it, I gave them everything, but you never know. Some people like to go back and look at it. Some people are not auditory learners, they're visual, and they do much better reading, even though they're listening to what you're saying, especially if it's maybe a new member and they're very nervous. You're just glad you didn't faint when you're up there, and you may not be able to hear anything for a while because you're just kind of calm down. Not every new member is like that, obviously, but I just encourage you, fill out the form and email it to the member, because it's helpful. That's the purpose of them. And we want this to be beneficial. Even if it's not beneficial for you, it may be very beneficial for them. And that is really the point of the evaluation, is to give them the hard copy of it. That is my little soapbox, which I will now step down from.
We did have one more question come in. I think Cecily may have addressed this, but it's from Charlene Jones. Hope I pronounced it right. She wants to know, can you change a path that you may have selected previously? And this is for you, Cecily.
I was texting, or not texting, but chatting you back as they were talking, Toastmaster Jones. It's kind of a twofold question. As Toastmaster Sherman stated before, if it has been within your 30 days, you can exchange your path. But if it's after your 30 days and or you've already completed that one free path that they've already given you, then you will have to purchase another path for the $20. And then you can decide if you had to fully purchase that second path, if you weren't able to just change it, you can go back later and do it, or it can just sit there. It's completely up to you. But to completely answer your question, yes, you can change your path at any time. The only asterisk with that is you may have to pay $20 to do a separate path if you're not able to change it within that first 30 days.
Super.
Thank you so much. That's a great answer. So we did have another question that came in from Carlos. And he asked, are there pathways that can prepare you for pitch competitions? And I just want to share something before I turn this back over to you both, if whichever has an answer for that. We do have an upcoming training. We're doing just a preview of it in our local club, but this is actually going to be an educational series project that everyone will be invited to, and it's going to be a pitch training workshop that's going to be in the spring. But I'll share this with either of you who may know that if there's any pathways that addresses that as well.
Honestly, I am not the best one to answer that, because that is not something I would be interested in, so I would not pay attention to it, frankly. I know that's probably not what one should say when you're doing a navigating pathways class, but that is the truth. If anybody has an answer, great, let us know. If not, we will. There's many people who are extremely well versed in all of the paths, and we will find that answer out and get that out to you. Toastmaster Kyles. Oh, Toastmaster Williams.
I'd like to know what a pitch is. What are you talking about? Pitch competition.
Yes, so a pitch is whenever someone says, so John, tell me, what do you do?
It's like an elevator speech.
Exactly.
But there's a competition for it.
There's different competitions for it, but the great reason I think a lot of people are interested in that is because if somebody asks you, so tell me, John, what do you do? By the time you think of your answer, or if it's more than like our table topics, which is like 2 minutes or less, and they say an average pitch that really catches someone's attention lasts anywhere between 45 and 90 seconds. So you have about that long before you lose their attention and they're on to something else. Right. But if you can answer that, great. You never know if it's something for your work, or if it's something for philanthropy you're interested in, or something you're involved in that you want to get other people involved in. That's sort of what the pitch is for. And we found that that is one thing that so many people who, whether they're looking to improve in their workplace, reach out for another job, or if they're an entrepreneur, the one thing they most had, and this is at several meetings that I've been a part of recently, even if they've been in business for a long time, they said the biggest problem they have is when someone says, so tell me, what do you do? And they couldn't bring it down to that 25 words or less, which is why we thought this is what we work on in our impromptu speaking. And we thought it might be a great topic. And we're going to actually put it out in a survey to see if this is something that our members would be interested in. So also, just to kind of throw that out there, we do have a survey coming soon to see what you guys want to see in your educational series. And I just wanted to do a shameful plug there. I'm sorry.
It seems like Toastmaster Kyles is in cahoots with you. The things he's asking you, it's right up your alley. So that's perfect tag teaming there.
Could you, either one of you, tell me which organizations already have these pitch competitions?
So right now we do have, you're located, what city are you located in, John?
Huntsville.
Okay, so I know we have several in Birmingham. We have the Birmingham Venture Club does one. They're throughout throughout Alabama in general, if you just put in there pitch competitions in Alabama, you're probably going to have about 4 come up. And it's wonderful to be able to pitch what you do already. But if it's something that you're looking for that's going to give you seed money for a venture that you're possibly interested in launching,
Okay.
that's what some of those are for. So just throwing that out there. And there's also an a national pitch competition, which is really about, once you win this, it helps you to go out and train other people to do it. I don't know if there's any prize money there, but it's more of, I've mastered how to do this and I'd like to share it with other people.
You know, I've seen the TV shows, and I haven't been to a place where there are a bunch of angel investors listening to people pitch things, but that's what it sounds like people are getting ready for.
Oftentimes, or if they're just if you're sitting in an airport, someone's sitting beside of you and they're just making casual conversation because you're waiting on your flight, and they say, what do you do? You never know if this is the one person or someone they know could help you advance either in your philanthropy or your business. So it's just good to know that.
Sure.
It's a great question. Thank you, John.
Okay. Whoops. Find my mic. Great. Well, that was really good. So it sounds like people are certainly interested in something like that. Toastmaster Wallace. Now we're going to go ahead and continue. Out of curiosity, and this can be a show of hands, do any of your VPEs have you do this external training request? Do you know what these are? Okay. My 3 clubs, none of them do it either. And I'm not really sure why this is there unless it's for really big clubs. First of all, you access it through Basecamp, your paths in learning. What this is, Toastmasters has this set up that if I want to do a speech for Pathways credit at my PTO or at the chamber, I can request the VPE to approve that Pathway speech. And I need, of course, as usual, to have a Toastmaster there to evaluate me. The VPE can approve it, deny it, or ask for more information. Now, what's also interesting, and I think this could be very confusing when you're in multiple clubs, and I'm not going to belabor this, but I just think it's interesting. Some clubs will have you use this to give it to another Toastmasters club because it's an external training for that club. So with my advanced club, if I wanted to give a speech at the downtown club, which I'm a member of also, according to Toastmasters, I would request my VPE of the advanced club give me permission to do a speech for Pathways credit at another Toastmasters club. I don't know if people have misunderstood that. That to me does not make sense, but it's also can be quite confusing. But the way you access it is you go to Pathways and Paths and Learning from Basecamp. You click on these 3 dots, add external training, and then there is actually a form to complete. If you want to see the rest of the form, you go to Basecamp and find that information. And it's quite detailed, but again, I'm not really sure of the rationale for that. Now, keeping track of the progress. I've seen different forms, probably at least 3 different forms that take care of multiple people, multiple paths. And I've seen other forms that have 1 sheet per path for members or VPE to do. To me, and this is the one that I see shared the most, even within our district, it's a tracking chart. I have my own for the paths that I'm involved with. I've also used this when I was VPE for the clubs. On the actual chart, on the far left is the name of the club members. The next column over has drop-down boxes, so I could put Toastmaster Wallace and then put the drop-down box for whatever path. If she's in 2 paths, I'll put Toastmaster Wallace and the second path. And that way you can keep track. And of a side note, some people that are in multiple clubs, they do 1 path per club. When I first started, I was like, why? It's not so confusing. I was in 2 paths and 2 clubs, and it was fine. Then when I did 3 clubs and I had 3 paths, I said, oh no, it just got, you wouldn't think it would be confusing, but it got confusing. So I do think that one path per club is not a bad idea to help keep everything straight. This tracking chart has been updated with the new level 1. And if you're very new, then you won't know what the old level 1 is. And then it tells you what the required project is, or what the required projects are. You have 2 electives here. Something that's really important to know. In order to have level 3 marked as complete or approved as complete in Basecamp, you have to do certain meeting roles, and they have to be entered into Basecamp. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Because you could do levels 1, 2, 4, and 5 and be like, what is the problem? Why can't I submit my information to Club Central? Why is my level 3 not being approved? I've done everything. Maybe you have not entered your meeting roles. And this of note, this reflects your path. After you have done and completed level 5 and you've done all of your others, this will pop up, and it's not another level, but it's sort of a post level that you need to complete before the path is truly complete. And this is how you enter your roles. This again is our beloved Basecamp. There's a little cog here that you click on, or you hover over, I think. You go to My Account, and then your profile page, your preferences pop up. It has all of the roles, the regular meeting roles, and the only roles you need to complete as part of your path and your level 3, Table Topics Master, Toastmaster, and Speech Evaluator. You've already been an evaluator because you were in that for level 1, and more than likely you have been Toastmaster and Table Topic Master, at least once or twice. You only have to enter this once. This is current for me. I did this in 2018. I don't have to update it every time I do it. I don't have to update it for another pass. Once it's in, and whether you do 11 pass, you don't have to enter them again. And again, that is through Basecamp, the little cog, My Account.
Tracy, is that something you have to do in order to finish or get credit for a path?
In Basecamp, yes, because they're not going to approve. Level 3 won't be approved. Your VPE can't approve it. Although I've had people say, well, my path was approved and I didn't, my level 3 was approved and I didn't do that. I don't know what to say.
I haven't seen that. I've approved levels 3 and 4, and I've not seen this before.
Well, that might be interesting for the members that you approved level 3 to see if they actually entered it. And that way you'll know. Because like I said, I enter it, so I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that or any experience one way or the other? No. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Sure. Thank you, Toastmaster Hill. Yes. Toastmaster Aiken.
Yes, because when you're talking about entering those particular things by date, does the date have to be after the beginning of Pathways? Because my Toastmasters time goes back more than just a couple of years.
I don't know. Well, you know what? I have one. Well, 2018 Pathways was up and running. I don't know, but I would think if you are, you can always try. And if you try to put in, say, 2017, 2015, you'll know if it takes it. But my hunch is if you're an active Toastmaster, you've probably done those roles since Pathways. Maybe, maybe
yes,
not.
I've done most of them.
Yes, I'm sure you have.
My date as a DTM goes back a little over 40 years.
Kudos to you. That would be really interesting if you tried to put in one of those. Try it and let us know, because I'm really curious now. And Toastmaster Hill, put in the chat that she had her level 3 completed and she did not enter any dates. So she didn't enter any of her Toastmaster, her club meeting roles. So I don't know the answer. I guess it's certainly possible. But I guess to me, it's like, why not? It took a couple of minutes, but that's me. But I know some people don't want to have to do anything, and that's not intended as a dig. But if they don't need to go into something and do something else, that's fine, because there's so much stuff we do on a daily basis anyway. Now, were there any other questions on that? I also realized I neglected to ask if there were any questions to be asked on the assessment, choosing a path. No.
Just Mr. Sherman, there was
Yes.
one question, did you see in the chat? Excuse me, from Alberta Pink.
I can't pay attention to the chat as well. My brain doesn't work that way.
I'm sorry, that's okay. I said it directly to you. I thought you may have seen it. She said, I recently completed my path, but it will not show completion. I am the VPE and it shows 93%. What must I need to do now? But she is the VPE.
Toastmaster Harper. I can only think of one thing, but Toastmaster Harper.
If you are the VPE, then unfortunately you cannot approve your own path. You will have to get the president or the secretary to go into Base Camp and Club Central and approve your standings there. You can do everybody else except for yourself. So I guess it's the checks and balance on that side. So just have your president or secretary just go in and approve it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do see a chat that popped up. I don't know any of the other ones before. It asked about Easy Speak to Pathways. I've never used Easy Speak, so I have honestly no idea. I mean, I know when we do Free Toast Host, that doesn't transfer into Pathways because they're totally separate systems.
Right, they're two different things. That's Easy Speak and Free Toast Hosts are similar or equivalent purposes, and they have nothing to do with Pathways.
Yeah. Toastmaster Wallace, I see there's other chats, a chat bubble that there's been 5. Is there anything I need to answer? Toastmaster Harper's saying no.
I think you've addressed. Let's see, you have one last one that came in. So could you please go back and show how to enter the club meeting roles again? I've not done that with all my levels, but they were all approved. So
sure.
Patty Smith asked if you would please go back and do that one more time.
Sure. And maybe that has changed. We all know things do change in Pathways. Well, maybe. Okay, Toastmaster Smith, you go to Base Camp. And then there's the cog here, and I don't know if you click on it or hover over it, but then there's My Account, and that you do click on, and that will take you here. And then you just enter whatever. Because I know, Toastmaster Smith, you were in the old program where we had the leadership manual and you check everything off. So it seems like this is a holdover from that. But again, you don't have to do everything. And some don't have to, you are successful without entering at all. Now, I don't know if any of you have done anything with badges and feedback and the documents. I've started to do this a little bit. And it's just really giving kudos and pats on the back to your fellow club members, as well as asking for feedback. You're not asking for pats on the back for yourself, but you are asking if you have a question about anything you would like somebody to get some more information on. And again, you're at Base Camp, you just click on My Feedback. Perhaps I've done a speech or I'm writing a speech and I'd like somebody to read it, or I would like the person I wanted to give me feedback, maybe it's my mentor, wasn't able to be at the meeting, but I would like them to get some feedback. Obviously, there's other ways to do this without going through Pathways as far as getting feedback. But for Pathways purposes, I have gone into feedback, as it says right here. I made it bigger because it was awfully small print. I put in Toastmaster Harper, tell me what you think of my gestures, please. And then, whoops, and then I decide who I want to ask the question. Obviously, it's going to be Toastmaster Harper. Who's going to see the responses? Everybody or just my Basecamp managers? If I want to upload anything, somebody, when I went to a training the other day, said you could upload an MP4. So if somebody wanted to have them watch a little video. And again, of course, you could just send that to them over email or Dropbox or any other way, but you also have that option here. And then you hit post. So that's getting feedback for yourself. Now, if I want to share feedback or award badges, I also go to my feedback again. In the box here, you put the member's name. And this was very convenient because Division Director O'Brien has given Toastmaster Harper some feedback and a badge. And you just type in here, what is your feedback? If you want to assign a badge, you just click here. And then this is another screen. And this has the different badges. Let's see. Adaptable, collaborative, courageous, exceptional, innovative, and almost inexperienced, inspirational. If I wanted to award Toastmaster Harper a certificate or something funny or silly, I would just attach it there. And since sadly, for the people in my club who are attending this training, nobody has given me any badges. And so I can't tell you what happens when you get a badge. That is, do you get an email? Do you get something pop up in feedback? I was asking Toastmaster Harper, since she has been awarded a badge and feedback from Division Director O'Brien, how did she know? So tell us how you found out you were awarded something.
If my memory serves me correctly, I got an email to whatever email you sign up with for Toastmasters, and it just tells you that you were awarded a badge by whomever Toastmaster, or if they left you feedback, and you just go onto your profile and check it under your profile.
Thank you very much. And as I was preparing for this training, I was asking Toastmaster Hill, who's the VP of the Gadsden Club, of which I'm a member, because we're hybrid, we do the table topics, best table topics, and then we go, yay. Obviously, we're pleased, but some people really, certificates are meaningful to them. And I thought, well, that's great. We could just upload a certificate. Obviously, we announce the winner, but then upload a certificate for them because that is meaningful and you get to look back on it. And if you're in person, maybe they'll have the table topics winner ribbon, but that would be just something nice to do. And I think we're going to start doing that. If I wanted to see my badges, again, I'm at the Basecamp, I go to my badges. These badges are for the paths I've activated. These are telling me I have 3 level 1 approvals, 3 level 2, and 3 level 3. The last part on this we're going to talk about is documents. And we kind of alluded to that a little bit ago. The documents, again, you access it through Basecamp. If I wanted to keep, it could be my speeches, it could be my evaluation forms that I've received, I could keep them all in one place on Pathways in Basecamp. I have them all on my computer, which is fine, but I've also thought about doing this because it's organized, it's not on my computer, it's not taking up space, and so you have that option. Nobody can look at it but you. Whether you have an excellent, outstanding evaluation or one that felt, gosh, you have, a lot of improvement or recommended, but either way, you can keep whatever you want. And this is by level, really a tool to keep you organized. So if you want to go back and reference either a speech you've written or an evaluation form you've received, it's easy to do it in here. Before we get to here, talking about DTM a little bit, any questions either in the chat or for myself or Toastmaster Harper on anything we have talked about so far? Toastmaster Wallace.
If anyone has a last minute question, go ahead and drop it into the chat now, or you're welcome to raise your hand or speak up. I don't see anything in there right now, but
Okay.
I love your presentation. I'm learning so much tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the goal. So that's exciting. Thank you. On behalf of Toastmaster Harper and myself. Distinguished Toastmaster, how many, I know we have at least one. Program Quality Director Hall is a DTM. Do we have any other Club Growth Director Conaway Jones? Any other DTMs that are completed? I know some are in process. Not yet. Okay.
Toastmaster Bob Aiken has
Oh.
been a DTM for many, many years. Yeah.
Super. Thank you very much for adding. Great. So we have about 4. That's wonderful. We're certainly glad that you are here with us as well. And you guys can chip in with some experience. So this is the path to Distinguished Toastmaster as a part of Pathways. This is a little blurry, but this chart, you can Google it and find it. It's on the TI website. I'm not sure, it may be on the district website as well. This is it's quite an honor. It involves and shows that one is a very dedicated Toastmaster and has gone through lots of different steps over time to complete the DTM. And some people take a long time. Some people go through it as quickly as they can. Again, it's up to you and what type of projects you choose. You have to complete and have them submitted into Club Central to complete learning paths. When you finish the first 3 levels of your second path, you can request that the distinguished, boy, it's really hard to say that when you have a dry mouth. It's like a tongue twister. You then can request from Toastmasters that the Distinguished Toastmaster project piece be added to in your Basecamp and your educational transcript, so you can start processing that. And I have not done this, so we're going to have in a few minutes, Toastmaster Peggy Hill is going to talk about her DTM project under Pathways, and then Toastmaster Program Quality Director Hall is going to talk about her high performance leadership project to see about differentiating between the two. So that is the education piece. The club leadership, you need to serve as an officer for either 1 12-month term, or if your club has 6-month club officer terms, then you need to do 2. They don't need to be consecutive. The key is it needs to be according to the Toastmaster year, which is July 1st through June 30th. If you come on because there's a hole in the club leadership and you start, say, in October and go through the end, October to October, yes, that's 12 months, but it's not the Toastmaster year, which can be a little frustrating. But if you're going to be an active club member, you're probably at some point going to be an officer again. District leadership, serving as a district officer, again, through the Toastmaster year. District director, program quality director, club growth director, division director, area director. I believe there's other one, the admin manager, finance manager, district publicity person, all of those. And again, it's the Toastmaster year, 12 months consecutively. As far as the club extension and the club support, yes, you need to do one of these, but you need to do it successfully to completion. As a club sponsor, this is getting your club that you're working with chartered, which means you have 20 members and you are good to go as a Toastmasters club. Depending on the environment, it may take a short time. Someone told me the other day that it took 5 years to get the club to in the level of being ready to charter. Speechcraft and youth leadership, these are programs for non-Toastmasters, often for youth or people in the community. It's a set number of meetings, and so those need to be complete, the whole series. And you don't need to do all of those, you just need to do one of those. And lastly is club support. Club mentor, once a club has chartered, the club mentor works with that club, it could be 2 people, works with the club for 6 months to really coordinate and train, help them understand. If they're brand new Toastmasters for brand new club, that is a whole lot of learning. You've got new officers, they need to learn base camp and pathways and all of those pieces. So the mentor or mentors help and guide the club at least 6 months. Obviously, they can stay longer, but they need to do it for 6 months. For the club sponsor and the club mentor, the president of the club signs off that, yes, the person did do whatever they were supposed to do as the sponsor or mentor. Club coach, and this is the piece also, it's successful. A club coach is there to support clubs. You can request a club coach if you have either less than 12 or 12 or less members, and you really want help to grow your club. The club coach has 2 years to get the club to be a distinguished club. And those requirements have changed this year. They've lowered some of the expectations since it's been so challenging over the last couple of years. And I think I saw an email recently that said, if you want to get one of these club support credits for your distinguished Toastmaster, now might be a good time, because you still have the work to do. It's still the same work, but it's not as many new members you need. It's just needs to be done, but it may not be as challenging as it has been. And again, you need to get the club to distinguished from within the 2 years that you are assigned as a club coach. Toastmaster Hall, Toastmaster Hall, let's just take a couple of minutes to tell us about your high performance leadership project, if you would.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished Toastmasters who we have on. Tracy and Cecily, you both have performed, educated, presented wonderfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Currently, I am working on a Pathways HPL, High Performance Leadership Project. The project is an elective for all of the 11 paths. However, there's 3 paths that you have to complete in HPL, and that is the innovative planning, effective coaching, and persuasive influence. I'm currently finishing up the innovative planning. The first thing you have to do is decide on something that will help not only you, but your fellow Toastmasters, your community. It could be your workplace. You want to select at least 5, 3 or 4 people to serve on your committee. This would be your group outside of your normal Toastmaster meetings. This will be your committee that keeps you accountable. There are high performance leadership books that thankfully I bought before the store went down. And in this book, there's an evaluation, there's an assessment. And in that assessment, it takes you through the different phases of your HPL. But just to give you a visual, you pick a topic that you can accomplish. Think about the SMART method. Something that is specific, something that is measurable, something that is attainable, something that has a return on investment, and something that you can also measure. You present at your club, here is my project. You meet 5 times with your committee. Your committee takes you through that HPL book, your different assignments. Again, they're there to keep you on task and to offer some suggestions, but this is your project. When you complete your project, because this is something you're actually doing, you're actually getting other people in this project an opportunity to follow you. You're asking a group of people in your project to help you bring this project to fruition. This is an application of being a leader, because to complete your project, you need those people to follow you to complete your project. This is separate from the committee. I guess they could be the committee,
but you're putting together a project together and you're getting people to lead you, and that's how you complete your project. At the end of your project, you come back to your audience, your home club, and you explain the results. You explain your lessons learned, and you are able to share your results. I'm trying to be brief and be gone, as Toastmasters have learned, but that is it in a nutshell. Pick a project, pick a committee, and make it measurable. You present once to tell about your project, and then finally the results of your project. TLI Dean Sherman, I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for,
No,
but that's what I have for you.
Thank
and
you
it is
very much.
7:37.
Okay. Well, we can go till 8. I'm going to ask Toastmaster Hill, who's doing a DTM project, to just share for a couple of minutes what she's doing, why she chose it, the breadth and the scope, just so you get a feeling of what all of this work can culminate into for the DTM. Toastmaster Hill?
Thank you, Toastmaster Sherman. I have no makeup on, and that's perfect. So, anyways, my DTM project, I'll just tell you, the DTM project is of your creating. There is, as Tracy mentioned, you download some instructional materials. It's a project like any other speech. There is training there for you. You go through that training, and then you decide what you want your project to be. The requirement is that the project must benefit an organization. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Toastmasters. It could be a different organization. It could be some other nonprofit that you feel strongly about, your children's school, whatever. And it's similar to the High Performance Leadership Project. You give a short speech when you get started, then you do your project and you give a longer speech when it is done. I don't think the DTM project is as stringent, as regulated as the high performance leadership. I think it's a little bit more flexible. And what I have chosen to do as my DTM project, I've had a couple that haven't quite worked out. So what I've landed on right now is I'm creating a series of instructional videos to orientate new Toastmasters. And I do have a team working with me on this project, and we've come up with a list of 7 videos that we're going to start with, and we've already started releasing the first one, and then the second. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy helped produce the first one, and we have the other 6 that will be released before the end of October. And when I get all that done, I'll give my final speech, and it will complete my DTM project. And if anyone has any questions about the DTM project, just put them in the chat. I'd be glad to try and answer. Back to you, Toastmaster Sherman.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hill. Wow, this has been quite an adventure this evening, and it's certainly, I'll speak for Toastmaster Harper and I, it's been a pleasurable and enjoyable one. And oh, happy day, you can take this 2 ways. You can take this 2 ways. That, oh, happy day, I've gone from level 1 all the way to level 5. I've done my pass, I've done my project, I've done my DTM, and now, yay, I am a DTM because I've done the project. You could find Calvin and Hobbes. Yay, I've done my projects. I'm good. I've got my DTM. I'm going to chill a little bit. You could also say, oh, happy day. The training is over. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but now it's time for questions, comments. I don't know if there is anything from the chat that is outstanding. Toastmaster Wallace?
I don't see anything in the chat. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to drop it in now. If there's not any more questions, oh, I'm sorry. John, did you have a question?
I have a comment. I hope we haven't scared off all our new Toastmasters with all this talk about DTMs. Well, most of the new people just want to be better speakers.
And that is true. Not knowing how many were new, how many were Toastmasters that have experience, but were not wanted more information on pathways. So I just thought I'd toss that in the end, but hopefully not. You know, I've been a Toastmaster 8 years. I have not received my DTM. I haven't really pursued it. I might, but it's not something you have to do. Some people, it's there and they want it, and that's the goal. And they've said that from the beginning. That's why they want to shoot for. And that is great. And people are there to help you on your way. But as Toastmaster Williams said, we're here to, at the very least, work on our presentation and our organization and our public speaking skills. And if that's what you want from it and you don't want to do all the other pieces, then that is fine, because it is your choice of what you do. And now, that is all, folks.